Hey everyone, this is Dr. Duru from the Market Breadth, and as you can see, the main topic of today is NVIDIA. Well, it finally happened. It took 6 weeks, but the topping pattern or the sell signal that I pointed out back in early March here did indeed result in a topping pattern for NVIDIA. So I thought I'd just go over the technicals here on what transpired, maybe make some guesses as to what kind of things we should be looking for going ahead, and also use this as an opportunity to do a little tutorial on technical analysis and doing some through some labeling on the chart. So before I start that, let's just go back and remember when NVIDIA reported its last earnings, it soared 16.4% to a new all-time high, a very bullish development, particularly because the day before it had sold off to tap the 20-day moving average. Exactly, actually. This is the 20-day moving average. It's the dotted line here. Technicals were in full force here. And you can see that this was a pullback from a very strong run. So when NVIDIA resumed the tagging of this upper Bollinger Band line, it just reconfirmed that buying interest is strong and the trend is up and strong. Now, this major bullish signal, I was too timid to chase, and I was hoping for some sort of price consolidation, maybe another pullback to support, but it never happened. There was a little bit of price consolidation here before, boom, the rocket zipped up again. Now, this was the big sell signal that I talked about back in early March. It's called you can call it a reversal because the stock opened up higher than the day before, higher than the previous day's high, and it closed below the previous day's low. Some people use the closing prices, some are good with the intraday prices. I like to look at the closes. Either way, this was a major bearish sign, and it was you can also call it a Bollinger, sorry, a bearish engulfing pattern. So that's what I'm going to label it here. So let's go ahead and write that label, bearish engulfing pattern. And I'm going to use a big blue arrow because this was a signature moment for NVIDIA. All right, let's put that big blue marker because we don't want to miss that. Okay, now I like to wait for confirmation before following any kind of technical signal. In this case, I wanted to see a lower close before believing that NVIDIA had truly topped. Now, it did follow through the day before, day after 2%, but I was not bearish NVIDIA just yet. In fact, because of this strong run up, I wasn't actually interested in shorting it. I believe that's what I said. And if someone wants to correct me, please let me know. But for me, I would have needed to see a bigger breakdown, like NVIDIA breaking down below the 20-day moving average for me to flip. Anyway, sure enough, NVIDIA jumped right back the next day, 7.2%, and essentially trapped any bears that were chasing NVIDIA aggressively. And this is called a bear trap, or sometimes you can have a bull trap because the very next day after the confirmation, it gapped up. I'm not going to put a label there because I don't really think it's necessary because I'm trying to tell the bearish story. Now, NVIDIA failed to make any more progress until finally it tested the 20-day moving average. So this was an important moment because just like here, NVIDIA survived the 20-day moving average test. So let me go ahead and put a label there because this 20-day moving average is going to feature prominently in this story. So 20-day moving average, oh, sorry, test of, let me make this test of 20-day moving average support. And then I'll put some thinner arrows there. And we'll include earnings. Let's get the arrow, not the straight line. So we have one test there. And another test here. Now, some people who want to be purists will say, well, it didn't quite touch it, but to me, that's close enough, particularly when buyers followed through. Now, here was the critical moment that really made the sell signal flash even redder is that NVIDIA just stopped short of invalidating the bearish engulfing pattern. What does invalidating mean? An invalidation would have happened if NVIDIA had closed above the high of the sell signal. That high was, let's see, $974. That was the intraday high. And notice here, NVIDIA ran up. This is March 25th, so about 3 weeks, sorry, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks after the topping signal, and it ran up to $967.66. So it stopped. I'm talking about at the intraday high. It stopped just short, and then boom, sellers stepped in. I think there are probably a bunch of people who said, "Hey, wait a second. NVIDIA looks like it's getting weak just as it's going to invalidate that major bearish signal. Let's get out now." And in fact, NVIDIA did sell off 2.6%, and notice it never closed higher again. So if you were already nervous, you should have been getting even more nervous about NVIDIA as time unfolded, even as it continued to sort of hang in there. Now, another opportunity to see the sell signal unfolding is when NVIDIA this time around did not hold up its 20-day moving average support. So here it broke down, it failed. And then this big bar here, candlestick, sorry, confirmed the 20-day moving average breakdown. So let me go ahead and put that in there. So 20-day moving average breakdown confirmed. So this is like the second true sell signal for NVIDIA. And let's see, things are going to get kind of crowded. So let me flip it up there. Now notice, again, this is not uncommon. I don't think this is unusual for a stock that has so many fans and that was very bullish going into a sell signal, is that not just going to roll over with a quickness. So while this confirmed the 20-day moving average breakdown, just like the sell signal here, NVIDIA bounced right back. But notice it did not continue. The buyers were not able to push it any higher. Sorry, even keep it from closing lower than the sell signal. And I really thought here this was the final confirmation, but buyers stepped in at the last second. And let me zoom in a little bit so hopefully you can see that candle better. It's right here. You could see if NVIDIA had closed here, even with it being so close to 50-day moving average, I would have declared the sell signal really 100% confirmed, but instead buyers took it back up. And now if you follow this dotted black line along, you could see people are playing this technical game. It closed right below the low here. And that also was a close that was right just below the previous close of the confirming of the bearish engulfing pattern. So someone is watching technicals, watching price levels very closely. There's all sorts of trading algorithms and bots that play these games. Now, before bears could get too excited, buyers stepped in, boom, boom. And suddenly it looks like, oh, it invalidated the 20-day moving average breakdown. And that could have been a way to shake out some shorts, but no follow through. So without the follow through, the previous breakdown sell signal remains intact. And again, this is sort of my own methodologies. It's not like textbook or anything. Some of it is textbook, but just recall that this is the way that I interpret charts, and I'm going to label it as such. So now the trouble is really on. Also note that in my posts at my blog, drduru.com/122, I became skeptical of the stock market and then bearish. And so that's the general context. So with the general context of the stock market becoming bearish, these kinds of things should become more and more worrisome. If the stock market were more in a bullish scenario or setup, these things aren't so worrying. Looks just like innocent or benign price consolidation. So here we go. So down day and then NVIDIA down day. Look at that. It's the 20-day moving average is holding as resistance. Again, a third time holding as resistance as NVIDIA taps the 50-day moving average. everybody's now paying attention to NVIDIA because the 50-day moving average is a known support line. Let me go ahead and mark that off here. So 50-day moving average, and DMA is daily moving average. So I'm going to say test and then breakdown. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. And then breakdown. So we'll put 2 arrows. Hopefully it's clear which one is the test. This first one is the test. And, you know, I would have liked to have said that NVIDIA passed the test because buyers stepped in, but it was such a weak follow through here. Look at that. It was only less than 1% and barely above the 50-day moving average. I was going to be more comfortable declaring the test successful if NVIDIA managed to close above this candlestick and above the 20-day moving average. I would have been clearly bullish, and I would have anticipated eventually this sell signal being invalidated as well. But instead, as everyone knows now, oh, sorry, I forgot to put in the extra arrow. As everyone knows, instead, NVIDIA fell 10%. And that was the big boom. And this was reflective of just growing bearish sentiment. Now, my last post on the market breadth at drduru.com/122, yes, selfish plug, I did note how on a very short-term basis, things had gotten to an extreme. So for NVIDIA, the extreme is not just that it went down 10%, but also it fell so far below its lower Bollinger Band. And again, the Bollinger Band is these 2 black lines that define price volatility of 2 standard deviations around the 20-day moving average. And I don't have time to go into what standard deviation means, but just know that it encompasses the majority of the price action. It's supposed to encompass the majority of the price action. So once price action goes beyond the 2 standard deviations, you can consider that to be extreme price movement. And that's what happened to NVIDIA. And there were all sorts of other signals. Again, I don't have time to go into them because I wrote about them on the blog, but there are all sorts of other signals that said the stock market had finally gotten to an extreme point that included the volatility index and my favorite indicator, the percentage stocks trading above their 50-day moving averages. And of course, NVIDIA became one of those stocks that fell out of that area of stocks that are still above the 50-day moving average. And true to form, today, which is April 22nd, we did get the automatic bounce. This is an oversold bounce. I'm going to call it an oversold bounce, even though my technical indicator did not get strictly to the oversold. I like to call it oversold enough. But anyway, notice where NVIDIA closed right at the Bollinger Band. So this is like textbook rubber band action, just boom, going back within the 2 standard deviations where we expect price action to live most of the time. So this is the big test for bulls. It's the big test for bears. It's ahead. I think there's enough volume and interest in the market here that NVIDIA could drift back to the 50-day moving average, where I will be, like everyone else, watching closely, because by that time you could see the 20-day moving average now declining. There should be a convergence here that will either serve as a very tight cap on the price action, or if NVIDIA manages to punch through, it will serve as a refresh signal that the market is bullish again. So if you didn't follow any of that, put questions in the comments on the video. I'll be happy to answer them. Like I said, I created a video that described this sell signal on my YouTube channel. So subscribe if you want to get timely notifications when I do these kind of tutorials. Otherwise, subscribe to my blog where I write more frequently and in more detail about these technicals. So just as a last overview, very bullish post-earnings breakout. This was the sell signal, or the signal that the rally was likely coming to an end. NVIDIA being a very well-loved stock and a lot of support, took a long time to confirm that sell signal, but eventually it did succumb. This is the power and the importance of following the technicals and not chasing, being patient, looking for confirmation, and putting together all the pieces of the puzzle. And of course, for your own trades and investments, always know your own risk tolerances. Nothing that I've presented here should be considered a recommendation to buy or sell. And at any time, I could also buy or sell any instrument related to NVIDIA. Oh, one last thing before I close this out. Let me also show this other big moment just as a reminder of why someone who wanted to short NVIDIA might be hesitant, even though that was a major sell signal. This also was a much ballyhooed, much watched bearish development that took many, many months for NVIDIA. And at the time I wrote that I don't think I've ever seen a head and shoulders top actually result in a top. And sure enough, NVIDIA teased the bears right here at the neck of this head and shoulders pattern. It broke down by, I think, a fraction, but it failed to confirm, and boom, it just bounced off to the races. And again, like any signal, once the bearish signal is invalidated, it becomes bullish. It was only fractional here, so it wasn't so convincing. But once NVIDIA survived this 50-day moving average, that was definitely the buy signal. I'd love to say that I followed the buy signal, but at the time I was chasing other things to the upside. I really regret just not following the technicals here as I was even describing them in real time. So that's a lesson for me. But anyway, hopefully I've convinced you why the technicals are important to watch for NVIDIA. And of course, we hope that the fundamentals will support these signals. If NVIDIA's business is still strong, then these bearish signals will wash away. But if indeed the market is sniffing something and, NVIDIA's guidance is going to disappoint, well, we've got the early warning signs here. So let's keep our eyes out and just see what happens. Oh, I forgot to mention one last thing. I know I keep saying that. So for my own self, I had told friends that I wasn't interested in buying NVIDIA till it hit 750. On Friday, it got as low as 756, and I was saved because I did not want to buy into what could be a falling knife. So this bounce kind of gets me off the hook of chasing NVIDIA here. But as a short-term trader, I love buying NVIDIA here for the bounce back to the 50-day moving average. I haven't decided whether I'm going to try it or not. And again, I have no, I may not be posting anywhere whether I do the trade or not. So don't look for me to post anything on that. I'm just talking about the potential. But if NVIDIA, so the thing that saves me if I do buy, and when I buy, it's going to be more for a longer term hold. I suspect it's going to slice through 750 if it's going to go lower. And then I will be looking for this gap fill before I buy. So that's kind of my, I'm kind of snaking my way out of my original claim that I would buy it at 750 on that score. And as a hedge, just in case this is the final bottom from NVIDIA, it's kind of hard to imagine it is, but maybe it is. I did nibble on an ETF called Think, THNQ, and that has a piece of NVIDIA in it. And that's sort of my play on the generative AI or just the AI trade, which I am very bullish on regardless of all of these technicals going on. As a basket, I'm very bullish the AI group. It hasn't been too nice this month in April. But anyway, this has gotten long-winded, and you came here for NVIDIA. I won't wax poetic on the AI trade here. Just check out my blog, and that's where I write about it. So anyway, thanks for checking this out. Thanks for following along, and hopefully this tutorial was helpful for any of you who are learning about technical analysis. Take it easy. See you next time.